Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And Sarah was talking just before I started the camera, and we have a wonderful representation of folks here today. And so, Sarah, you were talking about the summer activities in your district. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I was. I'm Sarah Fritsch from Big Lake Early Childhood, and we were just chatting a little bit about ECFE in the park in Big Lake. So we do that every other Wednesday. Registration, it's all free, but we ask families just to register just to kind of get to know who's there and what's happening. And then all agencies and businesses that are part of our Early Childhood Coalition are invited to set up a booth, which is basically like a table and then a fun activity for kiddos. And then we give a free book away. We do like 3 of our own activities, open-ended activities for families. And then we do a group time at the end. So we were kind of talking about what group time looked like with 70 families. It's fun. I don't know. It's fun. So we average between 60 and 70 families. And then I have like, if you do know me, I'm a loud person. And so I can just kind of holler and everybody comes to one spot depending on, because we are at different parks every time. And yep, sometimes we bring the giant parachute that's as big as a room, and sometimes we don't, and we just do like 3 songs. I have a big speaker. What are they called? Like the ones that you travel with, like the big giant ones, whatever. Rock blocker. We have a rock blocker. And so that kind of, we put songs on there and whatnot, and like friends just dance around and we have a great time. So yeah, it's not anything like structured. We're all like standing up and just being wild, crazy maniacs. That's what we do. It's fun. Yeah, it's a good time. My favorite part for sure is that we have that buy-in by our families, and then all the agencies and businesses that come. So before, like I was saying, the ambulance is there for kiddos to tour almost every ECFE in the park. The police department's there. Sherburne County health nurses are there. Help Me Grow is there. The hospital is usually there. Like somebody from the birth center, is there to talk. We invited like Central Minnesota Mental Health is said they are going to come this year, which is awesome. Yeah, so we just keep expanding and expanding the libraries there every time to do a story stroll. Yeah, it's fun. I love it.
Okay, one more question that I have for you, Sarah. Thank you. That was an amazing description. I'm trying to remember how you said it in your email. October was it family fun, and then March was like, was it? I forgot what you said. Rise and shine.
That's okay. I know, because yeah. So Family Fun Fest is October. So Family Fun Fest is another like big hoopla thing, but it's in the gym, and it's a resource fair for all of our families. And every business or agency that comes has to set up an activity for each of the families to do. Yeah, and I mean that attendance is, we usually, like this year we had, I think, 110 families come to Family Fun Fest. So it's like, yeah, just 2 hours of good times in the gym with lots of fun things. And then Rise and Shine is more of a like based on like, moving our bodies and health and stuff. And so we invite all the sports associations. We invite the lady who does like kiddo yoga, the one of a couple of the dance studios if they want, and they I don't, it's free, so it's not like I charge people to come, or the vendor people that come. So they set up a booth, table area, whatnot, and then they have an activity for the kiddos. And then I get money from Spudfest, so that's like our local, kind of, they support us in that. They then give us grant money. And this year I'm having Trisha and the Toonies come and put on a concert for us. So yeah, we try to make it fun. When we go back to ECF in the park, because if you missed it, that is sponsored by the city of Big Lake. So the city of Big Lake pays for that. So I think that's one of those things that has been working really well in Big Lake, is the Early Childhood Coalition being able to communicate with all these agencies and businesses around. And then you're like, yeah, to help. And I'm like, sweet, because I need your money.
Sarah, I have a really basic question, which is, how do you know how many people are there? So just in the sense of, do people sign in when they come in? Does somebody sit there with a little door clicker like they're in Costco? Like, do you have a plane going, little drone overhead that like takes pictures and does an estimate of population size? So just curious how you get your numbers.
Yeah, the drone thing for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No. So what we do is each of the families gets a book. They get a free book to take home, and that's our counter. So I know how many people have came because you sign up when they sign up for the ECFE in the park, they just come to whichever ones they can make it to. But then yeah, I have that free book, and then we have a sticker on the back of that book too that has like our Facebook page and stuff and contact info. So then we're doing outreach that way. But yeah, I count up the book. So each family leaves the book, then I count up how many books, then I know how many families came that day. So then when we do like family fun fest, we did and it doesn't always work, but we did our community needs assessment. We try to do that during family fun fest. And I have volunteers who hang out with iPads and are like, hey, when you come in. And so like once they fill out the community needs assessment survey thing, then they get their free book. It's all about putting a little carrot so I can figure out how many friends I have. Yeah. So that's what I work on. It's all about the free books.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Sarah before we move on? We go to another topic?
I'm also making quiche. If anybody has anything that they'd like to talk about there, see right here. Quiche.
So I put feta in mine, just saying. Since you're using spinach, it's like
I should, you're right.
well, no, I mean, it's just an option.
Yeah, not today it isn't. Not
Nope.
today.
Well,
I was just going to add that we're going to do it in the park this summer, but it's not going to be on a much smaller scale. We're just going to move around town, and we're going to do a small activity and a small circle time. And maybe if it grows, that's great. But we're starting out really, really small with some outreach in the community. So that's a first for us. So Sarah, if you did do a thing at Menafee, I think it would be well received because families do want to do things in summer. I don't want to be working all summer, right? Like this is the part of being a teacher. But I do think families are looking for things. And I think this is such a perfect way. So we're going to do some morning and some evening so that working families can attend. And then something brand new that I'm doing this year in terms of summer also is doing an ECFE class just for teachers, the first 4 Mondays after school gets out. So just some other summer programming ideas. But thank you for all that information on the summer night, because that gives me some ideas like I said, we're starting small, but we can get bigger.
Yeah, and thank you all to everyone who responded to Christy's message a couple of days ago. It was lovely to see like all these, our friends like chiming in, but just the wealth of ideas is amazing. Thank you. Let's go around real quick. I'll take notes in chat and let us know if there's anything you'd like to talk about today. Let me start with Jennifer, since she is next to me on my camera.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Wenner, and I'm a parent educator in Minnetonka, and no particular questions today.
Okay.
And I will call on Abby.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abby Zylstra, and I'm a parent educator in Wilmer. I also don't have any questions this week. And I'll go to Cinnamon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cinnamon Tyson. I'm a parent educator in Chisago Lakes. And I guess the only thing that I can think of is, maybe this is new, maybe it's not, but we just found out about the legislation that's coming out for 2025 and how we're not going to get ready for kindergarten anymore. they don't have to have any of these skills. So they just have to be 5 and coming into school. So anybody have any insight on that at all?
Thanks, Cinnamon. Is there anybody you want to call on?
Sorry. Carissa.
I'm Carissa Waite. I'm parent educator in Mounds View. Yeah, no particular question. I guess I was a little bit curious, Ellen, what ECFE for teachers meant exactly. But other than that, I don't have any other questions.
Ellen Hafner, parent educator in Northfield. Basically, Carissa, it's just for teachers who can't come to ECFE. That's it. It's for, are you a teacher and you've wanted to come to ECFE? So I think it's probably going to be birth to 5. And I was going to do it alone, but the interest of just talking about families, I think it's already gaining momentum and we'll have to have another teacher in. So, yeah. So to answer your very brief question, that's the plan. Only open for teachers who work full time. Nobody else. Sorry, you're out.
In
It's
your
a little bit
district,
exclusive. But
that work in your district specifically, or
yes,
teachers that live in the district but maybe teach somewhere else, or
we'll see whoever reads the community ed brochure. My guess is
Okay.
teachers who work in the district will know about it.
Sure.
If teachers work in the district but live in another community, they would also hear about it. So, I mean, we'll have to cap it at 10, but we'll see.
And you said it's just 4 weeks?
4 Mondays. Yeah. Real short and
Okay.
sweet.
Cool.
I have no questions either. So,
You want to call on someone?
Nikki Murphy.
Hi, I'm Nikki and I am a parent and family educator in Robbinsdale. I actually am also interested in some of the legislative things, and my question, or that I'm just curious about, is if your departments, if your respective ECFEs are talking about how the children, youth and families, like new category, taking us out of MDE, and what's the conversation that is happening within your districts, and do you have concerns about that?
Nikki, do you want to call on someone? Let's see.
Sorry, yes. Katie.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Anderson. I'm a parent educator in Jordan. And I don't think I have any questions today.
Okay. All right.
Let's see. Is there anybody else that hasn't gone?
We've heard plenty from Sarah. I'm kidding. No, Sarah.
You're funny. You're a funny lady. Funny. I'm right there with Miss Nikki. Please tell me, because I don't understand and I want to. And I had a coordinator meeting because I'm also the coordinator in Big Lake. And I asked this question, and the response, or it was almost like really fear-based. Like the coordinators in that meeting were saying that they basically are just looking for new jobs because they think they're not going to have jobs anymore.
Oh.
And anyway, so I know nothing. I would love to know more.
I don't know anything. I mean, Ellen shared the document last week, and I immediately wrote to Dave Pinto, who is very active in early childhood, and he's also my state rep. And I just expressed my interest in licensed parent educators, that a move to a more umbrella agency out of education may potentially dilute an interest in having licensed parent educators, and what that might mean. And so I'm sure many complexities in all of this, but I just spoke up, and that there would be sort of that preservation. So because I've seen it happen in other states when there's movement from sort of more specialized programs into a more generalized programs, and there are definitely pros and cons to both. And I will tell you that Dave's response was that this is a done deal. Like this is gonna happen. There's, so that was the sense that I got. Now, the other thing though is I talked to my friends at the U of M, and they also talked about, and this preceded my time in Minnesota, but there used to be like an Office of Children, Youth and Family that ECFE was under, that I guess the Plenty administration dissolved. And so that actually, having that bit of history that I was not aware of, or I hadn't really thought of, like parent education licensure anyway, had withstood that and maintained. So for whatever that's worth. But I think, if this is a done deal, then there are going to be so many questions about this that I hope that there is more communication and outreach to programs and districts and staffs, and especially at the coordinator level. But
Hey, Abby, did they talk about, I was in a class during the Menafee meeting today, and then I had someone come in my office, so I couldn't finish. Were they talking about this? Did this come
No.
up? Oh, okay,
No.
because I
I
heard,
think it was going to, but
okay,
if.
because I had heard someone say,
Come on this meeting.
okay, because I had heard someone say, like, let's just keep calm and whatever. I didn't know if that's what they were talking about.
No, they.
Okay. All right, never mind. Because I was wondering if there was something that was going to come from Menafee.
I was hoping.
I don't like why, and I posted this on Friends of Family Ed last week, and 2 people commented, and I'm like, how are people not more upset about this? This is not good. I don't think, because then does it mean then that we don't need to be licensed anymore? So then the integrity of the entire ECFE program goes down the toilet. It's that, I mean, I tend to jump.
Ellen, that's not the intention of this. This is my sense of it. And that's why I immediately wrote to my representative and contacted folks who have history, is that in this change, that licensing of parenting educators is not affected.
But how can it not be if it's not under MDE, if it's not under MDE? MDE is the licensor. Right?
It's actually
I don't know.
Pelsby. Pelsby is
Oh,
now
Pelsby.
an independent agency.
Oh.
But I think I have one idea, and that would be and a concern that I'll mention as well. I was in a meeting maybe a couple of weeks ago that Mike Brown was in, and he too had a lot of concerns about this. And he also shared what we're hearing here in this meeting, that people just don't know enough about it. And so it doesn't surprise me that 2 people responded to the post, because I think people just don't even know exactly what to ask right now because they're not understanding it. He wasn't even understanding it, and he said that it's been pretty hush hush. And so here's my question. Well, twofold. One, if we have legislation moving through right now to get 2 more people hired onto the MDE to work in positions to support ECFE and Mike Brown specifically, like that work that he's doing, and then there's no more ECFE under MDE, what happens to that? Is it a no-go, or would those positions be moved over to like children, youth, and families in this new department to support ECFE and move forward with the concerns that we've all posed, and why we have the Menafee lobbyist advocating for 2 full-time positions? So that is one big question that I have, and a big concern. But the other thought that I had is, Mike is so open to having conversation. I just kind of wonder if we gave him a date and an invitation, if he'd be willing to come to a Perfect Connections meeting to talk with us about that. And on top of that, because I do know from the conversation that I was part of, in which he was expressing that he didn't know a whole lot, in bringing him in, I wonder if part of that invitation would be to invite him to come in along with somebody, a partner in the MDE, who could maybe answer some more of those questions. So the invitation maybe perhaps would be to Mike and to somebody else that I wouldn't even know where to start, but maybe I would start with Mike and inquire about that. And what do people think of that?
I'm in so Betty, there's that Elders for Infants, and Glenn Palm is part of that, and Betty certainly is part of that. And you know, Betty was at MDE before they sort of dissolved that unit and moved it to education. And I mean, I can check with her because there hasn't been a change in licensing over, you know, since ECFE started, as far as I know. And so if there was a more generic program that like encompassed, you know, all of children's services, you know, if it was okay, then, you know, would it survive for this? So, I mean, I'll reach out to Betty and see, because if anybody's going to be concerned about something related to ECFE, it's going to be Betty, right? I mean, she's going to be on it immediately. So I'll check with her. And, you know, but the problem with anything is that if there's a little bit of information that is released, it's going to snowball and people are going to get concerned rather than having, you know, a conscientious rollout of, you know, this is decisions that are made. This is how it's going to affect people. You know, what questions do you have? And so I think what we're experiencing now, and I'm not defending it, I would say, as an evaluator at, you know, a few years ago at the state level, they did an evaluate, they looked at like how effective are these various early childhood programs, and ECFE was one of them. And unfortunately, but I think what is telling to this legislation is that the answer that came back is, we don't know, because they're all so siloed that they don't talk to each other. There's no coordination. And so, and I think as a result of that, this probably arose, right? Is that a more consolidated approach, a more coordinated approach is the way to really address more systemically the needs of children, youth, and families, rather than having them siloed. So, but anyway.
Well, and if you, sorry, Susan, if you think about, I was talking to my coworker about this, and if you think about it, in the percentage wise in a district, we hit very small percentages of families. That is the truth of ECFE. And I think, I mean, you know, I don't know, I hope that's not what they're doing, but I mean, if you look at a kindergarten class, we've maybe touched 10% of the kids in kindergarten. In fact, it might even be lower than that. So in terms of like how effective is ECFE, we know how effective it is for the families that come, but in terms of, go away, my stupid cat won't shut up. We know how effective it is to our families, but in terms of like the whole district,
you know, and it's possible that with a more, now this is really hypothetical because it sounds good on paper, but it rarely happens effectively. But the more that you have like a coordinated system, then you can have data that is collected across those systems. And so that rather than people saying, well, we don't have any data on ECFE, so we don't know really how well it works, it would be considered as one of, you know, all these multiple programs that data is collected on, so that they get a more fuller picture. You know, again, hypothetically, that's usually the way, and they may, you know, that might have been motivation for this. In practice, you know, there's a lot of places that can break down, but anyway, another possibility. But there are models from state to state to state of this, right? Of either addressing children and family issues in a very global way, from social services to healthcare to education to employment to childcare, you name it, or in, you know, a very separated way with, you know, benefits to both. So. Whew. It's big though. I mean, change is hard. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, change is really hard, especially when you're already relatively vulnerable, right? So, I mean, this is what I experienced moving the parent ed program at Minnesota from one academic department to another academic department. And if it's if you have no choice, which we didn't, right, then you just have to do it. But it's a lot of work to make that transition and maintain the integrity of the program, right? So, yeah. Anyway, on a brighter note, so let's see, we don't have too much, but I also agree, though, if we can get anybody from Manafi or Susan Shorey, or Mike Brown, or people who certainly know more than we do, I might suggest that we keep this as like a parking lot issue that we might check in on each week, just to see kind of if this is happening. Just so at least for the group that joins us, if there's any information that we can share, so that it's one more source of possible information for you. Yeah. Let's see. And then did everybody answer Abby's questions about summer hours? Looks like that's fine. Yeah. And Abby had to leave us, so good. All right. Well, what's been working for you this semester? Let's shift things a little bit to positive. When you think about maybe this week, or what are you grateful for?
So I did a lesson last week on self-care. And then our 3 to 5 year old class is our school readiness class. And so I have an hour and a half with those moms. So then we ended up doing affirmations also. And so I went to the dollar store and got little buckets. So I made them decorate buckets, which they all groaned, but whatever. And then I gave them sticks to write affirmations on them for their kids. And also just for themselves, because they need some good vibes too. And then I had 3 families come back from that same class and ask not only for more sticks, but they showed me all their affirmations that they wrote for their kids. And I had one family come back and said, my daughter hurt my son. And I said, well, look at how he's feeling. And she said, Mama, get the bucket. And so they went to go get the affirmation bucket. And she said, Mom said, we'll pick one out. So she picked one out and she's like, Mama, I can't read it. Read it to me. So Mom read it and then she repeated it back to her brother. So it was just one of those things that I was like, yep, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. It was great.
Cinnamon, that's amazing. Thank you.
I have one that I can share. I had some groups that were creating some make and takes this week. They were either on emotional regulation, like feelings wheels and things like that, or picture schedules. And the way that we landed on this in the first place was because, to back it up a couple weeks, we've been talking about de-escalation and calming, and then we followed that up with setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries, right? Like setting limits. And when we talked about the hardest part of setting those boundaries, we talked about how does it feel to set a boundary? How does it feel to enforce that boundary? And I told them that I would continue to check in with them over the next while to find out if they're using these tools and how, if any of that's changed in terms of how they're feeling about setting and enforcing boundaries. And I had 2 parents that commented that I loved it because they, at first it was more leaning toward that enforcing it is hard because the child could cry, right? And we all hear that. But the following week I came back to hear that some families one mom said, I feel good about it when it's really hard and we make it through together. And so like Cinnamon said, it's like, okay, that's why we do what we do.
This is really little, but something that I had always wanted to do was have a cartoon up on my TV when parents came in for my separating classes, not my non-separating. My only option for my non-separating classes is to use the projector on the wall, and it takes up the whole wall, and then parents can't lean on the wall. I need a TV, and we had one and it broke, but anyway. But it's, so I have my 3 non-separating classes and my newborn class, but I always have a cartoon on that has something to do with our topic, and parents love it. And it's a really great way to break the ice for them to laugh about it. But now I have parents sending me things because, they're like, this is such a cool, and sometimes they're ones duplicates I have, right? And I'm not like, I already have this one. I'm like, this is great. Thank you. Because they don't know that I've already filed it away, but I love that they are sharing things with me. And then they'll also find like not cartoons, but like charts or things that they feel really illustrate a parenting thing in a way that they hadn't looked at before. So I just love that they send me things now, and they're like, we thought you could use this. And I was like, yes, I can. So it's fun.
We had a PD event in our program last night, and some folks from the from MDE actually hosted it, from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion branch, or whatever you would call them at MDE. But one of the early things that they shared, kind of conversation starters, was the covenant, children's covenant from the Raffi Foundation. Is anybody familiar with this? Or did you know there's a Raffi Foundation? So let me read to you. There was like, all of us at our table were like, well, that's going on a poster in my room. It's longer, but I'll read the first part. Is, we find these joys to be self-evident, that all children are created whole, endowed with innate intelligence, with dignity and wonder, worthy of respect, the embodiment of life, liberty, and happiness. Children are original blessings, here to learn their own song. Every child is entitled to love, to dream, to belong in a loving village, and to pursue a life of purpose. Way to go, Raffi.
Oh, Jennifer, can you share that? Do you have that like in a text or a JPEG or something like that?
I'll put
shareable?
the I'll put the link in the chat.
Great.
Great. Oh, there we go. Nikki knows it.
Yeah. Is Raffi still doing music? Maybe there's like a Raffi the Third or something like that. They're bringing back Barney. There's like all this hoo-ha about, like, Barney was out when my daughter was little, and I was just sure that one of those kids would like write a tell-all book, 20 years later. But yeah, so Mattel like owns Barney, and I guess they're bringing back an animated show. And the big kerfuffle over social media is that they have cosmetically changed Barney. Like, they've given him like a thinner face and a smaller nose. And yeah, I know. Like, why does Barney need Botox? Yeah. Anyway, but I distract from the beauty of your words, of the words that you read to us, Jen. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Other things that are going well? I'll just make a comment about, all of the things that you all are bringing up are such wonderful examples of releasing control. I think in the sort of the teacher expert kind of thing, there's so much we have to do to get through our curriculum and to, manage the groups and anticipate, if there's going to be challenges, i.e. Ellen's dad, and, and because we're responsible, right? And so, but what we know, especially with what you all do as parenting educators and with ECFE, is really more about empowering the individuals, and by sharing focus and by you know, embracing their voices and facilitating, right? And so, you know, I just really appreciate all of these examples where the parents have learned from your behavior. Because certainly, I mean, think about the teachers we've had that you walk in and you know you don't talk, or you know that you're not going to be like seen as an individual, and your job there is to listen, right? And it's very, and it feels like a very controlled situation. And so I just am applauding you for creating these spaces that are there. It's like, I don't know, is there a word for it? It's like comfortable control, you know. I mean, it's like you know that you are in control because you are, I mean, control of managing the responsibilities and all of those things because you're trained professionals and you're so good at what you do, right? But to the parents and to the parents who walk in, there's also that sense of, but I have a place here. I have a contribution here. I am part of a community here. And when I've always loved it when, like I do a lot of like jokes and cartoons and funny memes and videos and onion things and stuff like that with my classes. And I just love it when I would get an email from a student going, "Oh, I just saw this really funny thing on Instagram or something. Maybe you could share it with the class." Like, it's just like, yes, you know, you're not just receiving, you want to contribute to the community, right? So anyway, I just wanted to, just an observation aside, that is such a critical part of, you know, what we all do, and you all are so good at it. So anyone else, other great things that are happening for you that you feel good about, gratitude for, you want to share?
I think
I'll
mine's
share
a-
something. I just wanted to share quickly, I think talking about giving up control, just a reminder to, and I'm sure everybody's great at this, but just kind of the unexpected. I had a parent that right before we separated, her son just was mad because somebody was sitting in the spot he wanted to sit in, and he was just raging, and you could tell mom was kind of embarrassed, wasn't sure what to do. So by the time she made it into my room, totally in tears, and but it was so nice to see the other moms just supporting her, just letting, you know, telling her that we've all been there. And I kind of, I'm like, you know, I'm not going to get to I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to get to my lesson today. We need to, this is what's important. And just giving up that control of, I need to get to my lesson, you know, like just really reading the room and reading where the parents are at, because that mom was not going to get anything out of my lesson. But one of my favorite parts of this job is just seeing the parents connect and build relationships. I absolutely love that. And so I think things like that help. And so that, and then again, just kind of being flexible, I guess. So, yeah.
Mine's a little different turn, but I think I said way back at the beginning of the year that I was teaching with a new early childhood teacher that I was kind of excited about, and just she's continued to be wonderful, and it's super nice to like have a teammate instead of, I have not felt that the last couple of years. So it's been beautiful to have a teammate, and I think she's gonna stay. She talks like she's gonna stay. So and she was a mom in the program before. I never had her as a parent ed in class. Her kids were, I think we just kind of just barely missed each other, but she's just so enthusiastic. She's so easygoing. I was out sick last week, and she jumped in and subbed for me every time she could. And she's been great. And so it makes me feel good. I feel like we're giving families quality classes right now, her and I together. So it's been great. We plan together. It's been fabulous. It makes such a difference having that teammate instead of just a coworker or whatever.
So bringing that up, so just sort of following, what is that feeling of, I mean, it's great when we have coworkers that we work really well with, right? And sort of we're in sync and they make the job even more fun and all of that. But, and where does control fit in, or leave, lightening up a sense of control when you have that coworker, potentially a new coworker, that maybe they sort of touch our control buttons, like, I don't know if I would have done it that way, or man, they are letting those parents talk, or just, you could control, like in the early childhood room, it's just like, oh, those kids will be okay. You don't have to keep calling the parent room or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, where does that sense of control or loss of control or checking our little control box like fit in when we have others that we're maybe working with? I guess I'm wrong. I'm like, it's only.
Well, I can share one thing that came to mind right away, and that is here in Robbinsdale area schools, I've worked with a number of different early childhood teachers in the past number of years. And one of the things that I think is on my radar is just, we always talk about with the parents and their children making deposits, right? Emotional deposits, and this ratio of 5-to-1, emotional deposits and emotional withdrawals. And anytime we make a request of our little one, of our child, it might be, or we're setting a boundary, and that's our job. We need to do that, but it is an emotional withdrawal, and we need to make sure that we are making those deposits. And so I guess when I think about your question, Susan, about power and control, or how that balance looks, each time I've gotten that new person in that room that I'm gonna be partnering with, I think I've been very mindful to make a lot of deposits, so that when I need to ask a question, or I'm going to make a request, or can we consider this, or whatever that is, that that we're ready to have that conversation, and that it's just part of what we do. So deposit, I think.
Yeah.
And I do think sometimes you're just not going to see eye to eye. I had a coworker who did not like me talking to parents during parent ed time. Well, and it was, I would check in and they'd be like, oh, you got a haircut. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Well, where'd you get it cut? And I would say, and then she would walk by and hear that conversation and be like, you're intruding on their time together. And I'm like, I'm making connections. So, sometimes you're just never, you're going to have things you just don't agree on, and you sort of coexist. That was hard. That was hard for me, because anytime I tried to talk to a family, I knew that she was, stop doing that, but I didn't. So.
Yeah, I found for me, the most of it is my own little self-regulation of like having this little internal, like, just breathe, it'll be fine. It's just like, this is the space for this person to learn, right? And think of all those times as you were developing, also there's a whole lot of learning that happens when you have new colleagues, right? And they're learning about you, you're learning about them. And I've gotten way better, over the years. And I think part of that comes from just comfort, right? Comfort and confidence, that it's just like, and it kind of parallels, we talk about with parents, that, oftentimes parents can be kind of uptight and anxious, but a lot of it is lack of experience, right? And lack of information, and certainly lack of confidence. And so as a professional, the more comfort, I have in a classroom, and the more comfortable I feel doing what I do and all of that, I find it much easier to, when, my little control hairs stand up, it's just like, this is their learning opportunity, right? And you don't need to get in the way of it. And you'll know, like, if it's something that you can talk about, right? And just be, you can be open and supportive, and what, Susan, maybe shut the hell up and listen, because you're probably going to learn something from the way that this person is doing it, or, and this is your chance also to observe the, the parent's response, because you know what, they may respond to this person in some ways better than they respond to you. So what is it that they're doing, they're saying, they're being, right, that, is working for this group. So, yeah, thanks. Not easy.
I totally agree with that too, Susan. I have a new EC teacher this year, and I've worked with, so I have two of them now that I'm the parent ed, and then I have two ECs, and they're this new one, but is so different than the other one that I work with. Like they could not be more different people. But me stepping, like you said, like just stepping back and kind of like, this is a whole new approach, and just watching what she does and how she does it. And I am one of those, like, let's just do, let's get done, And I mean, her group times, like la-di-da, and friends are just, I don't know what's going on. They're everywhere. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm like, well, if you gave them some direction, maybe they would do, but no, it's like, it's so, what she does is so good and so important for those parents to see that we don't have to, group time's only 15 minutes. We have to get our 4 songs in. She's not at all like that. She's just taking the cues from the kids in her class, and things just go. And it's been such a good thing for me to watch. And then I've been trying to stand back and breathe, because that's always one of those things I have to remind myself to do. And she's been a treasure for sure for our program to have that. We even started a grandparents class because of her, because she's so, like, she's a grandparent, and she's so passionate about it. But I also think that population just really resonates with her, right? That other EC, it probably wouldn't have been the same. So true. I do also have to stand back and shut up.
Actually, you guys have helped me, because as I had mentioned, I'm going to do a workshop at Menafee on creating community. And I had a title. I'm one that like does, like something cute, colon, da, 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 da. And so, so I had a title, and when I submitted the thing, and then when I got the thing that, we do want you to do it, I reread the title, and it was just like, oh. So I wrote to Sarah and I said, don't print that. Like you can use the end part of it, because that's just like the facts, but let me come up with something else. So what I'm going to actually do, because from this conversation, is and because it's about creating community, building community, is to have the first part of it is be around magic moments, because as you all are talking, it's from that sense of community. It's from that sense of sort of, what you do, what we do, that these magic moments arise of parents supporting each other and coming back for the bucket of affirmations, and and are giving that space to learn from our colleagues and things like that. So thank you. Well, I guess we're out of time. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share for the group? It's been great. Sarah Frisch, good luck with all of your cooking, and have a fabulous weekend in Wisconsin with your friends.
Has any of you, oh shoot, now I'm not going to remember the name of it. There's a book on trying to make friends. I just requested it from the library. It's like for adults, like trying to make friends. So anyway, never mind. I'll find it and ask for a book. Yeah, I'll give you a book report on it when I do it. So I'm interested. I think it's funny that people just assume if you are a ECFE parent educator person that you like leave work and just hang out with people all the time.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you.
Everybody, see you next week.
Bye, friends. Appreciate you.
Bye.
You too.